Today I'm harvesting this medicinal plant from my garden. It has traditionally been used extensively in treating chronic skin conditions as well as soothing the gut. But what if I told you this is also a non-native weed here in the US, and it is pervasive? Most people are trying to get rid of this. Whether or not we consider a plant a weed is based almost exclusively on whether or not it's growing in a place where we don't want it to be, or whether or not we consider it to be useful. And I'm not out here arguing that there aren't invasive weeds that we absolutely do need to try to get rid of. I mean, if I could snap my fingers and get rid of all the Bermuda grass in my yard, I would absolutely do that. But what I think is we consider a lot more things to be weeds than we really need to, just because nobody's ever taught us about how useful they can be to us. Plenty of the plants that we consider to be weeds or invasive these days were actually brought here on purpose. Now, not all of them, but a lot of them were, because people saw the value in these plants and they couldn't live without them. So I think what I'm really trying to do here is to educate you and let you also see the value in these weeds so that you can turn your weeding this summer into harvesting. So today we are talking about curly dock, aka yellow dock, and you can find this pretty much throughout the entire continental US. It is everywhere. It is native to Europe originally, but it has kind of spread throughout the entire world at this point. In the spring, the tender young leaves are edible. The root is the main thing that we would use for medicinal purposes, and then later in the summer, the seeds are also edible. Historically, this root has been used for treating anemia, probably due to its high level of iron, but also probably due to something in the plant that we don't quite understand, making that iron more bioavailable. This plant is also commonly used to help treat skin conditions when taken internally and also applied externally. While researching this plant, I came across a really interesting legend that I want to share with you guys. There was a belief that this plant could draw love, as in draw it towards you. The lovelorn were instructed to dig a root of the curly dock, dress it in a similar manner as the one they had affection for, and carry this doll for a month. After carrying this doll for a month, they were instructed to chop up the root and boil it in water. When this potion cooled, the lovelorn was to wash their entire body in it. This would draw the object of their desire to them forever. To identify this plant, what you're going to want to look for is the telltale curly leaves. These leaves are wavy on the margins as well as kind of curly in between those waves. Now, this plant is a cousin of rhubarb, so if you're familiar with the way that rhubarb looks, then this plant might look really familiar to you. Mine has green stems, but a lot of times you'll see these plants with kind of purple or reddish stems. You can actually see just like a hint of that like pinkish color coming in here, but I have seen it be way more extreme, that like reddish purple color. Something else you can also look for to identify this plant is this papery sheath that is around most of the new leaves that are coming in. So if you go towards the center of the plant and look for where all the little baby leaves are, you'll see that they're wrapped in this like white papery substance, and if you pull it back a little bit, it's kind of mucusy under there, just a little bit slimy, and that's a really good way to make sure that you have the right plant. So today I am harvesting this plant for its roots, and something you can see is all of the roots that are harvested today did break off. Now, theoretically, if you're careful enough, that won't happen. But that is also part of the reason why these are so hard to get rid of as a weed, is because these taproots are so large and they go so deep. And so even though I've dug out a fair bit of root, I have a feeling that this plant is still going to grow back from the root that got left in the ground in the garden. And while it's a little bit annoying that I can't exactly choose where this plant is going to come up in my garden, I do feel really good about the fact that if or when it does come back, I can harvest it instead of trying to eradicate it. You know, I think the tone of it really matters. Seeing this plant in my garden and being like, oh, that's good, I can dig that up and I can use that for something, versus coming in and being like, oh, this plant again. This plant is so hard to get rid of. I have to dig it up. I hate seeing it. Like, just the vibe of being in your garden and seeing these plants can totally change once you understand the useful ones. As somebody who is a gardener and not a certified herbalist, I do want to be careful in what I tell you about the medicinal uses of plants like this. I can talk kind of broadly, but what I really want you to do is go listen to people who are experts in this. I'm going to link below a channel that I really like for learning about plants like this, and he actually does have a video on curly dock specifically. So I will link that video and the channel below. The channel is called Legacy Wilderness Academy. So there are actually so many plants like this that are in my garden and a lot of gardens around the United States that are considered to be weeds that you've probably spent many hours ripping out of your garden in a huff, really upset that they seem to be so prolific. And so what I want to do in each episode is talk about a different weed that is really common in gardens and talk about how it actually is really useful to you, and you should be treating this as a harvest and not as weeding. If you want to make sure that you catch the next episode, go ahead and hit subscribe, and by the time that I've made more of these, the playlist of all of them is going to come up here for you. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy gardening.